Welcome to the Boardroom. I'm Roz Gold-Onwude, and today we are here with Lakers assistant coach Phil Handy, coming to us live from the NBA bubble in Orlando. What's up, Phil?
What's up, Roz? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm glad to see your smiling face. I'm happy you made it safely and healthily into the bubble.
Yeah, we here. We are here. We are here in beautiful Orlando. It's overcast today, but we here.
We'll definitely get to the bubble talk, but first I want to just cover a bit of your journey to this point. And your resume certainly speaks for itself. I mean, you have worked with, just to name a few, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Kyrie Irving. There's many more. You've been to 5 straight NBA finals. You're hoping maybe, now that you're in the bubble for your 6th straight. You've won 2 NBA championships, one with the Cavs in 2016, last year with the Raptors. You played ball. You then went on to be a trainer, and I read about the amount of miles you would drive in your car all over the country to work with all different levels of hoopers, and then finally to make that transition into the NBA, player development coach, then assistant coach, and now in your latest role with the Lakers as an assistant coach at the front of the bench. Very few trainers see this kind of ascension, Phil. I'd like to start with, what was the breaking point, the breakthrough point for you to make that transition from trainer to NBA?
Man, Roz, I just think I don't really know if I had a breakthrough. I just think that my journey has been it's been one where I've actually just enjoyed every step of the way. A lot of people have asked me how I got to this point in my career. And even you talked about those days with me in my car, where I was like, I valued those days. They were part of who I was. So it wasn't like I was in my car, like, man, I want to be doing something else. I was present in every part of my journey. So I think during those days when I was in my car, I think you were at Stanford. And Stanford was one of the places that I used to drive to train some of the players at Stanford. And it just that part of my journey is a piece that I look back on and I say, I really wouldn't be here without that, because it really taught me a lot about some work ethic. It taught me about being passionate about it. I would drive 500 miles in a day sometimes. So I think what happened, Ross, I went through that for 13 years running my business. And I got to a point where I was just like, my name had grown in the training industry and I wanted to be kind of recognized as one of the best trainers in the game. And I had an opportunity to work with a lot of great players, but I hadn't worked with a player such as Kobe Bryant. And when the opportunity came, when Mike Brown offered me a job with the Lakers, that was really the selling point. That was the tipping point for me, was to, well, if you want to be on that track and you want to be recognized as one of the best trainers in the game, then you have to work with some of the best players to ever play. And that was really like the challenge for me. I think that was really the next step or the next phase of my career. I didn't know how it was going to turn out, but having the opportunity to work and develop a relationship with Kobe was really that was the thing that kind of pushed me over the edge, because I had, before that I had some previous opportunities to get on the NBA staff, but I was really happy with my business. I was happy with being able to work when I want to work, take time off when I don't want to work. And that was really the driving force to that. Kobe was, he was really the thing that kind of pushed me to say, this is a new challenge for you. And can you, work with players like that and help them and also have an understanding of what it is to work with elite players at that level. So that was the thing that kind of really pushed me into the NBA.
Yeah, and you mentioned Mike Brown giving you that call to come join his staff on the Lakers. That was your first run-in with the Lakers and first NBA job. I think it was like 2011. I think
2011.
Yeah, and there are different roles as an assistant coach or being on a coaching staff. Can you be specific with me about what the difference is between the role of player development coach versus being an assistant coach on the bench, and maybe even give us some examples of like what you're trying to do to try and support Frank Vogel, for instance, in a Lakers game as an assistant coach?
The main role was to make sure guys are working. And I think there is a misconception around the NBA that development coaches are not coaches, and that we don't coach the game, and that we don't do the same. No, our responsibilities are different. You know, we're not required to have, you know, breakdowns of the offense or the defense, but we are required to understand, you know, the team concepts and to understand the flow of the offense, understand how it works. So, you know, that was my lane. And as I moved out of that, you know, I went to Cleveland and I became the director of player development, which gave me some other guys to work underneath me. And then I became an assistant coach, which allowed me to start doing scouts. It allowed me to start doing game prep. You know, T. Lue gave me a lot of responsibility, but at the same time, I still held a lot of responsibility in development. And, you know, now here with the Lakers, you know, that again, continue to grow. Frank has given me a large responsibility role. So, you know, I still do a lot of the development. I still work on the offense. I still work on the defense. I still do scouts. I do all of these different things. And then really just, I think as an assistant coach, your responsibility is to be a soldier for the head coach. You know, whatever Frank needs me to do, we got to carry out those orders. And I really try to keep it in that. When he gives me different responsibilities, I try to tackle those things. I try not to move into other coaches' lanes. You know, I want to keep my focus on what coach gives me to do. And I try to carry out those responsibilities to the fullest. And then on top of that is, you know, our responsibility is to also shoot him with ideas day in and day out, different things about offense, different things about defense, different things about our opponent, things about our team. And at the end of the day, you know, Frank is to collect all that information and figure out what he feels is best for the team going forward. But we are to flood him with different thoughts and ideas. And his, you know, that's our job as an assistant coach, to give thoughts, to give ideas. And at the end of the day, you know, Frank will take what he wants and leave what he doesn't want. But my growth as a coach has definitely been a steady climb from development into really getting into the X's and O's of the game. And I think that's been a real natural progression for me.
I mean, I know you're going to keep it humble, but a lot of people toot your horn as one of the greats at what you do. In fact, I just saw on Twitter recently, Kendrick Perkins called you the best player development coach in the league. He put that on Twitter. And it's something, you know, I'm in NBA circles, it's something echoed over and over again. You can also see that in your ascension, and also how those top players, you know, rock with you like that. And that has a lot to do with the drills and the workouts you're doing, but it also has to do with rapport and your ability to understand guys. I remember you were telling me about getting to build a relationship with Kobe, and Kobe tested you, and he kind of came at you. You had to prove yourself. I want to know now, what about Kawhi and LeBron? What were they like to build a relationship with?
Man, you know, both two different guys. LeBron is obviously, man, he is who he is, Roz. I mean, his career, when I got to meet with Bron, I was in 2014, I believe. I went to Cleveland in 2013. I was there for a year without him. And then he came back to Cleveland, and I didn't know LeBron at all. Never met him, never had any dialogue with him, just, you know, played against him. And so Bron is a man, he's a first-class worker. I mean, he loves to work. He loves challenging himself. And Bron was pretty straightforward with me. You know, the first day that we got to the gym and he got back to Cleveland, we sat down and we had a conversation. I asked him, you know, just what he wanted to improve on, some areas that he wanted to get better at. And for me, I've always felt like with players like that, Roz, it's about collaborating. Because as a coach, I learned so much from them. You know, just as much as we impart knowledge, they impart knowledge on us. And I've always been very aware of understanding what players like that need and figuring out how I can help them. And it's really all about listening. So, you know, Bron just say, hey, look, coach, I'm very efficient. I like to be efficient with my work. I don't like to waste time. I like to get my work in. I like to get off the floor. And he was always about, look, I want to improve my ball handling. I want to improve my footwork. I want to improve on every area of the game, my post-ups. So that was the first conversation that we had. And then I think it was just really all about just building trust on the floor. It's not about building a relationship or building a friendship. It's about building trust through the work. And I found that that's what's made me have some success with a lot of players, is that it's all about the work first and foremost. And I think that moves into other areas of your relationship once they understand that you're all about helping them get better. And purely that, then their barriers come down. They begin to trust you, and they understand that, hey, coach, all he really wants is for us to get better. So it was pretty easy process with him because, again, it was about the work. And Kawhi was pretty similar. I didn't know Kawhi either. I had no previous relationship with him when he got traded to Toronto. And after, maybe about a couple of weeks, I kind of let the dust settle. I asked the organization for his number so I could text him. And I reached out to him and say, man, look, I've been a big fan of yours for a long time. Love your game. I love your approach. And I said, look, I'm new to the organization just like you, and I'm ready to get some work in whenever you're ready. And he texted me back and was like, when you pulling up to San Diego? that was pretty much how our relationship started. And Kawhi was pretty much the same. He's very no nonsense about his work. And, he was very to the point saying, look, I really want to get better with my ball handling. I want to continue to get better with my mid-range and my post-ups. And he had an idea and a plan of where he wanted to attack. And so that made it easy for me to just fill in the gaps. And, I went to San Diego and spent the whole month with him leading up to the season. And we just worked every day. And we really, again, built a relationship through the work on the floor. And it was a really seamless process. He is what you see.
Yeah.
There's no fluff. It's nothing. It's just basketball in his family. And his love for the game is just like when you walk into the gym with him, he doesn't want any noise. He doesn't want the music. He doesn't want people in the gym. It's just, look, coach, I just want to get my work in. And that to me, I mean, that's easy. That's easy to deal with in dealing with players like that because you know exactly what they're about.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear the different personalities because it's definitely commonplace where a trainer or a coach will even reach out to a player and sometimes they don't get a text back,
I've been through that. Kyrie put me up on that one. He he didn't even talk about it. But yeah, little young Kyrie put me.
Tell me about young Kyrie.
He's still that's like my family.
I know.
We have such a great relationship. I got to Cleveland again. I didn't know Kyrie either, but Kai had went through a phase of, he just lost his coach. Him and Byron Scott obviously were really close, and so, in times like that, sometimes players are just like, hey man, I don't know who these new coaches coming in, and then he didn't know me, so, and if you don't really know Kyrie, if he doesn't know you, he's not really fooling with you too much, and so when I got to Cleveland, and we did a workout, and Kai was spending his time in Miami. So he did a workout and he left and went to Miami. I said, Kai, look, we're going to build a relationship. We'll keep in touch. We'll get some work in. So he gave me a faulty phone number. He gave
on purpose?
He gave me like the, he gave me the bat phone or whatever, the phone that he keeps in the trunk of his car. And he might only check it a couple weeks at a time. So I text him, Roz, and it was like crickets. A couple of days. And then I'll be like, okay. And I kind of, expected it. I wasn't surprised. I text him again. I mean, he maybe like 10 days later, he'd text me back, hey, coach, man, my bad. And so after that, I was like, nah, we're not doing this. And I told Mike Brown, I said, look, I'm going to have to get on the plane and go to Miami, coach. I'm going to have to go sit down and talk to this kid face to face. And that's exactly what we did. I got on the plane. I told Kyrie, I said, at that point, I was like, look, whether this is the real number or the bat line number, I don't care. I'm coming to Miami. You tell me where we're meeting. And he hit me back and said, coach, just come to my condo. And we sat on a patio and talked for like 2 hours. And, really, he opened up and was just basically like, look, coach, I don't know you. Just how I am. If I don't really know you, I don't really make myself accessible like that. And so we had a man-to-man conversation and we kind of put that behind us, and the rest of it is history. And that's kind of how our relationship started.
Right. So, it's funny that Kyrie and Kobe were able to have a relationship and one that Kyrie always reflects on so beautifully and powerfully. And I know that you actually connected them. Um, it's funny that the two of them kind of tested you. And for those who don't know, like Kobe went at Phil's neck, and he had and kind of tested his manhood, if you will. Like, is he going to step back to me? And you know, Phil did. He respected that. And so, and then you have different personalities in LeBron and Kawhi. You know, so for Kyrie and Kobe, how do you compare the personality?
And they're so similar, Ross. Like, again, after spending a couple years with Kobe, I got to understand him. You know, I think he's still one of the most misunderstood individuals ever because of what people thought of him and just the outtake of his personality with his teammates, or you know, his dislike for people that didn't work hard was apparent. And if you were a teammate that didn't work hard or didn't work on your game, Kobe let you know about it, period. And so, you know, I think he was misunderstood, and I think Kyrie was misunderstood too. And so, from a standpoint, not from the same angle, but just not really understanding the kid. And I
Explain,
think,
because that's something that we're constantly in the media discussing. What does Kyrie mean, or is he being cryptic? What kind of leader is he? And I'd love for someone who knows him as well as you do to really
yeah,
speak
man,
on is how he is misunderstood. How is that?
I think both of those guys are teasers, if I can use that phrase. Like, Kobe was a dude that would throw stuff out, just say stuff, just to see how people react. Kyrie's the same way. He'll say stuff just because he knows he's going to get a reaction out of people. He will do that. And for people that don't know him, it's just like, oh my God, what did he just say? So, you know, Kyrie will say something crazy to me. I'll be like, Kai, man, get out of here. Whatever. I know you're just trying to get a rise out of me. I think that Kai was, you know, a young kid who came into the organization after LeBron left. And so Cleveland was, you know, he was the number one pick. You know, there was a lot of pressure on this young kid that came out of Duke after playing 10 games of college basketball to lead this organization, right? That's a lot of pressure for a young athlete who's still trying to figure out who he is. And so in that, I think there was just a lot of stuff that was thrown on this kid, a lot of stuff that was put on his shoulders that you know, he probably wasn't ready for. And I think he would tell you that himself. And so a lot of these stuff, you know, in the organization was just really just about building a relationship. Talk to the kid, right? Get to know him. Get to know who Kyrie is. Because again, if you were somebody that Kyrie didn't know, he wasn't really going to open up to you. He wasn't going to share with you. You know, he would be very standoffish. And I think Kobe was the same way. You know, if you didn't really know Kobe, you didn't really understand. He's not going to speak to you. So when I got to Cleveland, you know, Kobe was a big fan of Kyrie's game, and Kyrie was a big fan of Kobe. And I got there and I just asked Kobe, I said, look, man, would you mind mentoring this kid? You know, he really looks up to you. He respects you. And I think it would help him a lot. And Kobe right away said, man, absolutely. Give him my number. Tell him to call me. And, you know, I told Kai, I said, man, build a relationship with him. Kobe was open. And Kyrie reached out to him, and that relationship was fostered. But I think there's so many similarities between them. And I think, again, Kai really wanted to draw from the whole mama mentality. He wanted to understand what that was about and how he can dive into it, and, you know, how can you separate yourself. So, you know, they had a lot of conversations along those lines. And it was just really good to see that Kyrie took a lot of things from Kobe in the sense of how he started to take seriously about working on his body, take seriously about working on his game and trying to craft and become a better player. And it really took him to another area. And then when Bron came to Cleveland, you know, he had another, you know, alpha male to look up to, and another gentleman that could help him understand what it means to get to that next level. And Bron was like a big brother to Kai, and that was also a big help. So I think it was just one of those things where Kobe and Kyrie, man, they just kind of matched. You know, they fit together right from the beginning.
Yeah. Let's go back to your relationship with LeBron and the work you're doing with him. Not only you already knew him and was working with him with the Cavs. Now you're reunited with the Lakers. You touched on a little bit, like, you know, a player of that level, LeBron's going to go down as one of the greatest of all time to ever play this game. So when you're working with somebody of that level, you mentioned the listening goes both ways. So you said LeBron wanted to do some ball handling, footwork. Can you point out the nuances of the game that he wants to work on at this point of his career with the Lakers, and the types of drills you work on with LeBron right now?
Man, it's actually the same, Roz. I think it's been an evolution, right? When I first got with Bron, um, I think sometimes I think my methods are a little different. The way I teach things are a little different. So it took a little bit of time for us to get comfortable together. But you look at Bron now, and he's the same. He wants to work on the same things. He wants to get better at every facet of the game, from his ball handling to his finishing, to his post ups, to his pick and rolls, to his mid range, to his threes. Right? He wants to touch on every piece of the game because he plays that way. And what has really had me taken back is his humility. As a player of that stature, he's one of the most coachable guys I've ever been around. And when I'm talking about coachable, he still looks you in the eye as a coach. He still responds to coaching, and he wants it. So even now, Roz, the things that we do now are to really help him continue to improve at this point in his career, and he works just the same, if not harder. He's very efficient in his work. Again, doesn't like to waste time. He's not one of those guys that's going to be on the court for 2 hours trying to kill himself. He wants to be efficient in his work, so where he can play efficiently as well. So, we spend a lot of time on his ball handling. We spend a lot of time on his footwork. And
what are drills? What does that look like?
Man, Roz, it'd be easier for me to show you than to tell you, but you are a hooper.
Yeah.
Look, Roz, I think a lot of stuff for him is about rhythm. We do a lot of rhythm dribbles. We do a lot of combinations to put him in different scenarios where he's comfortable handling the ball on the perimeter. We do a lot of drills with his footwork where he's comfortable in the mid post, and he's comfortable on the perimeter as well. And so I think I've always just tried to do things with him that apply to his game, but also help him in the areas that he wants to continue to improve on.
You're coming to us right now live from Orlando in the bubble. You're in your hotel room right now. You talk about mindset, and it's been fascinating to see what's coming out of the arrivals in Orlando. And a lot of it is players kind of cracking on the conditions and the hotels. We saw Rondo said Motel 6. We saw JR was on the live reading the menu. It was a number of players. What is your thoughts on, and also another thing about mindset too, is being able to quickly get in the mindset of this is playoffs. It's like there's a chance for the team who is more mentally strong, they might surprise teams who might on paper have been the better team. What do you think are the pitfalls of mindset in this type of environment?
Everybody needs to be locked in. There's not a lot of time to waste, so it's not like 82 games, 8 games, and you're into the playoffs. So I think for some teams it means more than others. But my mindset is, for me personally, I'm going to attack everything as if the playoffs start tomorrow. I want to have a mindset of just being locked in myself. And I think that's crucial. If people are really not understanding how fast the scrimmage is and these 8 games will go, and then you're going into a 7-game playoff series, you might get caught with your pants down. So it's really important to understand that time. Time, you can't waste too much time. Your practices have to be good and sharp. Look, they're not going to be perfect, but again, just mentally be locked into what you're preparing for. And I think the guys that have been in the playoffs, they understand it. Guys that understand what they're trying to compete for, I think they understand it. There will definitely be one of those things where you have to understand here, you're going to really find out who loves basketball. Being in this bubble, you're going to find out who really loves the game, and who's strong enough mentally to say, look, we're here. We got to deal with all these things. It's just basketball now. It's all about just locking into the game and being prepared to play.
You're there right now. How are the setups? What's your reaction to being in the bubble and just getting there?
You know what, for me, Roz, this is easy for me. It reminds me of playing in Europe. And so, when you go to Europe and play, you leave your family most of the time. You're not around your friends. You're in a country by yourself. Most of the time, people don't speak your language. So you're in a situation where you have to adapt and figure out how to live in the environment you're in. So I look at the bubble as the same. We're it could be a whole lot worse. We're in Disney World. We're staying in a hotel. They're providing us with food. I'm just me. I'm a pretty basic individual. So for me, I'm like, yo, let's get it. This is, again, why are we here? That's the mindset for me. Why are we here? We're not here to mess around at Disney World. We're here to resume the NBA season and to compete for a championship.
Getting back to understanding how to train players and bringing the best out of them, especially the pros, how do you study players on the court and in film? Like, what are your strategies and go-tos for assessing a player's strengths and weaknesses?
Yeah, Roz, I think being around the game, yourself, you're a hooper. You can walk into an arena and just because you have a feel for the game, you can identify things right away about a player. So for me, though, I've always looked at players' footwork and players' balance. I look at those two things and how they play, no matter what position, whether they're point guard, whether they're center. Those two things for me kind of tell me a lot about a player. And then again, you can look at shooting mechanics, you can look at ball handling, you can look at all these different things, but I try to really look at the basic fundamentals. And to me, footwork and balance are really huge. The whole women's basketball movement and how important that is. That is huge for me because I think that was one of the things that Kobe and I had a number of conversations on. We did a Mamba Invitational where we invited 20 NBA players, and we did 2 days of just on the court, off the court, where they had a chance to really just get a chance to pick Kobe's brain and be next to him and talk to him and work out with him on the floor while I was there. And so we had talked about doing one for the WNBA and some elite high school girls. So I just think that women's basketball, it doesn't get enough credit, doesn't get enough respect. And just in general, people don't really understand how serious female hoopers are. Like how serious you guys are about the game and how much time they put into the craft of working on their game. And so that's one of the things that, I really kind of dove into during the pandemic is trying to connect with more female athletes. And, I've connected with LLoyd and Mo Billings and some elite high school girls, and just really want to be able to be a part of that as well and help women's basketball continue to move into an area of more popularity and more understanding of how real the sport is. I think it's growing. I think that's growing and it's changing. And I know that, that's something that you've been a part of for a long time as well. But that's something I'm really serious about and diving in and doing more stuff with women's basketball.
Coach, I saw you working with Mo Billings and different WNBA players, different female hoopers. Is there a big difference in training male hoopers versus female hoopers? And there's nothing wrong with saying, yes, there are differences.
Yeah, big difference. I think female hoopers, they lock in more to the details because males are more athletic, right? The male hoopers tend to skip details because of their athleticism. They figure, I can do this. I can cut this corner. What I like about women's basketball is the details that they apply. And I mean, the details of working on their footwork, working on their balance, working on just the details of the game. I think that's a huge difference for me. They pay more attention to the details and you can see it. Their fundamentals are sharp. They have to be. Again, there are a lot of athletic female basketball players, but I think the athleticism that we're talking about is, above the rim versus below the rim. And now you see more ladies entering into that realm of dunking in games and all of that stuff. But I think that's the area to me that I've seen is the biggest difference. It's just their attention to detail. is a lot stronger.
One more question about female hoopers. I know your relationship with Kobe was strong. He actually had asked you to work with his daughter, Gigi. Um, just because we don't hear a lot about, or we don't know as much about Gigi, can you reflect on what Gigi's game was like, what her mentality was? What was she trying to work on?
She was like her dad. I remember the first time I went down to work out Gigi and a couple of her teammates. It was right after the finals in Toronto. And I had taken like a month off. I hadn't done anything. And Cole reached out and was like, yo, you in LA? And I had happened to just get to LA. I said, yeah, I'm here. And he was like, I want you to come down. I want you to come down and work Gigi up. So I drove my car. Next day, got down there. And he told me, he said, look, man, do not take it easy on them. You treat them like you treat us. Like, don't come down here with no soft stuff, man. They need that work. And that mindset was there. They are serious about it. I mean, they are serious about their craft. Gigi she loved the game. You could tell that it wasn't just, is my dad making me play? No, she had her own love for the game. And you could tell right away. And I just think you could tell that Kobe, since he had the love, he was just going to make it accessible to her. And I'm going to do everything I can to help you succeed if this is what you want to do. And, I mean, she would work on fadeaways. She would work on a lot of patent stuff that, you would see in Kobe's game. She was trying to implement those things in her game. And so she was serious about it. She would miss shots and she'd get angry. She turned the ball over, she'd get angry. And, I used to tell her, like, don't worry about it, G. Like, that's why we in here. Work, get better. And I know that there was a handful of other people that Kobe had spent time with her working on her game, but the mentality was there. You could see it right away.
I want to keep it moving to this part of the interview where you have an app. You have an app called 94 Feet of Game app. And so now your great knowledge, your drills, the way you think, your gems that you can give to people is not just for the best superstars of the NBA, but it's available to anyone who wants to work on their game. Can you tell me more about the vision for monetizing your knowledge and creating a business out of your workouts?
Man, Roz, I was actually forced into it. Some of my business partners were kind of just on me about getting to a place to where I can share my knowledge. And I've had a lot of coaches over the years, man, email me, DM me, just approach me about workouts or techniques or, coach, can I come watch your workouts? And so I think, as I've kind of went through this journey as a coach in the NBA, it became more apparent to me that for some reason, people want to understand and learn how I teach the game. So it took me a while to really believe that. Like, if you believe that, it took me a while to really be like, nah, come on. It's not that many people out there that really want to know. But when we created the app, Roz, my whole purpose behind the app was really to just share knowledge with any coach, any trainer, any player, parent. It doesn't matter age, gender, doesn't matter your level. If people want to have a better understanding of the game and understand how Coach Handy thinks, that was where the whole 94 Feet of Game app came from. And again, I ran my training business for 13 years where I trained kids on a daily basis. There wasn't, my NBA clientele was a very small part of my business. I spent 90% of the year training high school kids and middle school kids and college athletes. So the app is really just a way, because I can't be everywhere now. And as a full-time coach in the NBA, I can't train as much as I would like with people that are in middle school. So the app is just an outlet for me to share the knowledge that I have to help people understand training. The philosophy of how I train is not, I don't look at it as my training as the only way or the only right way. I just think that now there's more people that want to understand how I teach some of the elite athletes and how that applies to teaching the youth. So the app has been probably one of the best passion projects I've ever been a part of. Being able to develop it and making it available to the basketball community. I just really just want to see basketball grow. I'm a lifer. I love the game, and I want it to be coached in a proper fashion. And so I'm just put it out there to try to share as much knowledge as I can with the whole basketball community.
Well, it's very exciting. You've worked with the likes of Kobe, LeBron, Kawhi, Kyrie, the list goes on. And you actually on the app have pros showing the drills with you, but you're also working with college kids, young kids, boy hoopers, girl hoopers, all genders. So it's exciting that knowledge is accessible to everyone on the 94 Feet of Game map. So we'll definitely be checking it out. We appreciate your time and joining us on the boardroom, and we wish you the best of luck in the bubble in Orlando.
Roz, man, I appreciate you. People don't really know, Roz, our history going back to them Golden State, Cleveland days. I'm quite on your climb and your journey as well. I think we kind of our paths have been somewhat similar. We just kind of started, and the journey just takes us. I could not sit here and tell you, Roz, I expected to be sitting where I am today from years ago. So it's I appreciate every day of it.